Thank you very much, comrades, for coming to this press conference at a very short notice. We want to apologize for giving you very little time to prepare for this conference. But we want to thank you for coming. Thank you for the work that you are doing. I will not waste a lot of time to the reason why we are here today. With me is the deputy convener of the Constitution Defenders Forum, David Chimini is on my right. On my left is the deputy spokesperson of the CDF, Chieza. She's a lawyer by profession, and we are going to be assisting each other to address you today. Let me start by saying that the situation that we find ourselves in is very unfortunate, and we want to call upon all Zimbabweans to develop a consensus and say no to the violations of the Constitution that we see happening now and before. So to talk about that, the deputy convener is going to address you. After that, our legal expert, Chieza, is going to address you as well. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, fellow Zimbabweans. Good afternoon, the media houses. We have invited you this afternoon to listen to what we feel, what we understand, what we know is happening in Zimbabwe. This is in particular what has happened with the Human Rights Commission. We feel very strongly that the Constitution is being mutilated every day. And this is one specific issue of concern to us. We stand in solidarity with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission for the statement, the bold statement they made. This was not a wild goose chase. They analyzed what was happening. They analyzed exactly where they felt this was not proper. And they stated that very clearly. And for the government to come around and demote the chairperson of the commission, it becomes of great worry to us. So what we are saying to Zimbabweans, let's respect the Constitution. We have provisions that guide us in whatever we do. The Constitution is supreme, and there's no reason whatsoever to panic to a stage where government can remove chairperson of a commission without explaining to the people, because when she was interviewed and passed, the whole nation believed she was one of the best, and all of a sudden the president has decided to reassign. To us, we don't call it a reassignment. To us, it is a demotion. So I'm going to ask the deputy spokesperson, Chieza, to go through the sections of the Constitution which have to be protected. And I'm sure after she has presented, if you have any questions, you'll ask those questions. But we are saying to the nation, we are saying to Zimbabwe, this is totally unacceptable. We may not have powers to reverse anything, but we will continue to make a lot of noise in the defense of the Constitution. Over to you, Jessie.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Convener. My remarks will basically build upon what you have just said. So my name is Jessie and I'm the Deputy Spokesperson of the Constitution Defenders Forum. So as CDF, we strongly condemn the brazen and unconstitutional removal of the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. In our view, this action constitutes a flagrant violation of the Constitution of Zimbabwe, which stands as a sacrosanct compact between the state and the people. For the avoidance of doubt, we would like to make it clear at this stage and point in time that the Constitution of Zimbabwe is the supreme law of the land, and any conduct or practice that is inconsistent with it is void ab initio. In other words, it is null and void and of no effect and can therefore not be enforced. It is ultra vires, meaning the decision or action taken goes above and beyond authority that is provided for either in any legislature or by the Constitution itself. In simple terms, the President has no justifiable legal basis to act in the manner in which he has done, and in fact, by purporting to unilaterally, capriciously, and arbitrarily remove the head of a Chapter 12 commission, the President exercises powers he does not even possess. We state this boldly because it is the Constitution and not CDF that states that the obligations imposed by the Constitution are binding on every person, including the head of state and government, and that is provided for in Section 2, subsection 2 of the Constitution. It is the Constitution again, and not CDF, that further stipulates that the President of this country must respect, protect, uphold, obey, and defend this Constitution as the supreme law of the nation, and must ensure that the Constitution and all other laws are faithfully observed, and that's provided for under Section 90, subsection 1 of the Constitution. Finally, we would like to reiterate that in us being here, we are not doing so in defense of any person. We are not here on the instructions or in support of any person. We are here as Constitution defenders. And I will say that again. We are here as Constitution defenders to speak out against the undue exertion of control and or influence over the office of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. We are here to speak in defense of the office and the institution and not any person, because the institution remains minus the person. And we are here in everything that we do. We are directed and guided by what the Constitution says. And the Constitution, as it stipulates in terms of Section 233, created the institution of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission to entrench and support human rights and democracy in the country. Above all, this institution was envisioned by the Constitution to exercise its functions without fear, favor, or prejudice in terms of Section 235, subsection 1 of the Constitution, and which ultimately was created by the Constitution to be independent and not subject to the control or direction of anyone, including the President of this Republic. And that's provided for, again, under Section 235, subsection 1A of the Constitution. So, in moving forward, what are we saying as CDF? The actions taken are not in accordance with Section 237 of the Constitution, because they provide exclusive grounds, very strict procedures which must be adhered to and followed when we speak about the removal of members of independent commissions. This section deliberately entrenches a stringent process precisely to safeguard the integrity, security of tenure, the independence, and the impartiality of these pivotal Chapter 12 commissions, particularly a commission such as the Human Rights Commission. So according to Section 237, subsection 2, a member of an independent commission may be removed from office only on the grounds that the member concerned is unable to perform their functions due to mental incapacity, has been grossly incompetent, has been guilty of gross misconduct, or has become ineligible for appointment to the commission concerned. In particular, it places a stringent requirement by placing a high threshold for the removal of a Chapter 12 commissioner by stipulating that the procedure for the removal of judges from office applies to the removal from office of a member of an independent commission. That procedure for the removal of judges is laid out in elaborate detail under Section 187 of the Constitution, which, among other grounds, makes it clear that the President must appoint a tribunal to inquire into the matter. It does not state that the President must do so of his own volition. Since the Constitution does not give room for the President to act in the manner in which he has done, CDF accordingly views this development as a calculated and retaliatory move designed to silence dissent and intimidate independent constitutional bodies. It raises serious concerns about the erosion of democratic governance, the rule of law, and respect for constitutionalism in Zimbabwe. It is actually deeply ironic and troubling that this action stands in stark contradiction to the public pronouncements made by President Emerson Mnangagwa, who has repeatedly portrayed himself as a constitutionalist, as a listening president, and a champion of women's advancement into positions of leadership. We saw this. We have seen this. We saw it through Commissioner Mojome's appointment as chair of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. We saw it through the appointment of Virginia Mabiza as Attorney General. We saw it through the appointment of Justice Lois Matandamo as the head of the National Prosecuting Authority. Now what we are seeing is that the targeting of Commissioner Mojome, a distinguished legal practitioner and vocal defender of constitutionalism, exposes those claims as hollow. The proximity between Commissioner Mojome's removal and her well-publicized concerns regarding Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, including the procedural irregularities characterizing its public hearings, further reinforces the conclusion that this action is politically motivated. The Constitution Defenders Forum reiterates that the independence of Chapter 12 institutions is non-negotiable. Any assault on these institutions is an assault on the Constitution itself and by extension on the rights and freedoms of all Zimbabweans. We remain resolute in our commitment to defend and uphold the Constitution, and in light of these developments, we demand that this unconstitutional act be reversed immediately or within the next 24 hours, failing which we will be considering all lawful and available measures to challenge this illegal action and to simultaneously intensify efforts towards the withdrawal of Constitutional Amendment number 3 in its entirety. Thank you.
To remove members of Section 12 of the bodies without going through the laid down procedures within the Constitution. And as CDF, our objective and only objective is to make sure that the Constitution is always adhered to, and to make it clear to all Zimbabweans that no one, including the president of this country, is above the law. This is why we are also against the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, because we believe it violates the Constitution. The procedures that are being followed in terms of trying to amend the Constitution are violating the provisions of Section 328 of the Constitution. And again, the lateral transfer of Honorable Mojome is another example of that violation of the Constitution. And as CDF, we will not sit down and watch. We will take all the necessary steps to make sure that this Constitution, the Constitution that we all agreed to in 2013, is adhered to by every citizen, including the president of this country. Thank you very much. We will take a few questions from you guys if there is anyone with questions.
We are of the view that what has occurred is in fact a removal. I think the deputy convener referred to it as a demotion even. A reassignment, if we want to be technical about it, should at least have been to another sister Chapter 12 commission. The Public Service Commission is not an independent commission established under Chapter 12 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. So that is completely different. It's a completely different mandate that involves the civil service. So, and not only that, we are speaking of a head. This was not just an ordinary member of the ZHRC, it was the chairperson of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, who has now been relegated to ordinary commissioner within the civil service. So you cannot call that a reassignment. At the very least, it would have made technical, it would almost have made sense if she had then been taken to a sister Chapter 12 commission. So we remain unwavering in our position. That is not a reassignment. It is just a technical term that has been used to water down what has actually happened, which is in fact a removal of the head of the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission from her position in an unprocedural and undue manner. Thank you.
A calculated move by the regime to say to all those within the government who have decided to stand with the people, this is what we can do to you if you decide to side with the people. ZANU-PF is well known for investing in fear. They are going to harvest the fear when they are going to make sure that all the other people who are within the Chapter 12 institutions or inside government, including inside ZANU-PF, because we know there are people who are inside government, inside ZANU-PF, who are against the violations of the Constitution that are taking place right now. But the message that is being sent to them is that we are going to deal with you The same way the ZANU-PF regime is going after all the people who spoke against the constitutional amendment bill number 3 in the rural areas. We are having reports from our members in different places. They are being followed up, they are being beaten, they are being harassed. The idea is to invest in fear so that people are silenced and they cannot speak. And this is what is happening.
And maybe in the
As CDF, as you said, we believe in upholding the Constitution at all times. The judiciary remains the premier institution to hear our cases, and as you said, we will be exploring any and all available options. In terms of prospects of success, we litigate obviously with the hope of positive outcomes, but also for the sake of setting a record. History is going to record this. The world is watching. This will go down in the history books. It's probably the first time, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, in which a sitting president is actually purported to exercise powers that do not exist by removing a head of a Chapter 12 commission. But this is not the only case that we are pursuing. As you may be aware, CDF has already asked Parliament to reconvene public hearings on Constitution Amendment Bill number 3. We ask Parliament to reconvene these public hearings so as to ensure that the public can effectively, reasonably, and adequately express their views on the provisions of the proposed controversial legislation. So basically what we are saying there, for example, is that the hearings that were held from 30 March 2026 to 2 April 2026 were woefully inadequate for members of the public to be properly involved in the legislative process, and were not conducive for members of the public to express their views. So we really must exhaust all available domestic remedies, and this is exactly why we approach the courts. And if we do not get a positive outcome, then at least we can say we exhausted all available domestic remedies for our grievances, and we're not successful, and we will then take it up further. Thank you.
Maybe just we are calling upon every Zimbabwean to stand up to the truth. We are calling on all Zimbabweans to be courageous, to be committed to the rule of law, and it's not only CDF. We are calling on every Zimbabwean. So the question on whether we will succeed or not, it does not really follow. We are making a statement, just as the deputy spokesperson has indicated. We are making a very strong statement that we will not lie idle when the Constitution is being mutilated. As Zimbabweans, we have a right to defend the Constitution. We have the right to defend our rights. So in other words, it is for every Zimbabwean to be strong. ZANU-PF has been using violence, which is in the public domain. Everybody knows. What was happening during the public hearings was not really any public hearing. It was just a system that was created just to make some semblance of public hearings. But people were intimidated, people were beaten up, and we are saying we cannot continue to allow ZANU-PF to do that. All we are saying is, Zimbabweans, let's defend our Constitution, let's defend our space. I thank you.